So, what is spiritual direction? I really believe in spiritual direction ever since I discovered it about 3 years ago, and it's changed my life. I discovered it first by reading Working the Angles by Eugene Peterson. This is a book that was required reading for a spiritual formation class that I took while in grad school. He argues in this book that the role of the pastor is to be devoted to prayer, scripture, and spiritual direction. And that's when I heard this term for the first time in this book. And it also happens that after I finished that course, my instructor informed me that they were starting a spiritual direction training program at my school. As soon as I heard about the concept and really was sold to Eugene Peterson's posture for pastoral ministry, once I got on board with that, I was like, yeah, I have to get trained as a spiritual director. So in this video, I want to offer you some definitions of the term and some resources you might consider if you want to receive spiritual direction. So there's an informal definition that I want to share and a formal definition. Here's the informal definition. Spiritual direction is a prayerful conversation about what God is doing in your life. And the reason why this is informal is because anyone can offer this type of spiritual direction. This is a conversation you're having with your friend over coffee about your doubt. This is a conversation you're having with your parents. I mean, so it can just really be anyone offering you this space to talk and to discern what is going on in your spiritual life. And this is something that's been happening from the beginning of time. As long as spirituality and God and faith has existed, people have talked to someone else about their thoughts about God, about their faith, about their journey. We've been doing this since the beginning of time. So that's an informal definition. Here's the formal definition of spiritual direction. Spiritual direction is a prayerful conversation with a trained spiritual leader about what God is doing in your life. And this is formal because in this definition, someone is receiving training to know how to do this well. You know, you might feel more comfortable receiving this type of conversation or having this conversation with someone that has been trained in reading scripture or teaching scripture or in ministry in general. And the same might be true for maybe your counselor. Spiritual direction is different from counseling, but you can receive therapy and all types of mental health tools outside of getting one-on-one counseling. But there's something special about someone being trained to do this and you having that space and that conversation and that connection with someone that is trained. There's something unique about that as opposed to you just informally receiving mental health guidance and all that. The same is true for spirituality. I would say the same is true for our faith journey. And I would argue that everyone at some point of their journey will either need a counselor or a spiritual director. There are some things that we can't really navigate by ourselves. I think this is why community is so important, but I think this is also why one-on-one time with people, formally or informally, is important. And the thing is, God can use both. God can use both the trained spiritual leader, but also God can use the one-on-one conversation at a coffee shop with your friend. The Spirit is moving through both of these spaces. Really, it's just a matter of preference. It's a matter of where you are and what works for you and what makes sense for your particular concerns and your journey. So I'm passionate about spiritual direction because I believe that we need to talk about it more. I think we have to go beyond the traditional go to church, the pastor talks, the preacher talks, he delivers a sermon that is just kind of just throwing rocks out because he knows his congregation, he knows what they might need, but he's not able to speak to every particular situation and every particular journey. There's hundreds of journeys represented on the Sunday morning, right? So when someone is able to sit down with a trained leader or someone just trying to figure things out too, there's something that happens that is unique. And so that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this. Let me say a quick word about what spiritual direction is not. Spiritual direction is not goal oriented. When you go to a counselor, you're working towards a particular goal. And that is what takes up the space in your session. But for a spiritual director, it's more growth oriented. We're trying to ask questions about what God is doing and how God may be inviting you somewhere else, right? And the spiritual director is not offering instruction or prescriptions or really even information. The role of the spiritual director is to provide a space and to create a space for the Spirit to do the informing work and the transforming work as well. Spiritual direction is also not life coaching. Life coaching is more similar to maybe a mental health professional, except there's maybe expertise in different areas. Life coaching is also goal oriented. Spiritual direction is not. The same way you might say that a prayer is not necessarily goal oriented per se. I mean, there's a way to to pray in a way that's goal oriented, but essentially we're trying to get into the presence of God and allow that to do the work and trust that the Spirit is more powerful than our own efforts and our own insights, and trusting that when you're together with someone else, there's something that the Spirit is able to do that maybe the Spirit can't do when I'm alone by myself in a room. I'm convinced that that's true. And maybe you are too. So if you're looking for a spiritual director and you think that spiritual direction might be something that you might benefit from, I would encourage you to search on Google a spiritual director near you. Or also you can go to a online directory of just about any website, spiritual director directory. You can just type in spiritual director directory, and you might find Spiritual Directors International, which is something that I'm also listed on there. You can find something like Soul Shepherding or Leadership Transformation or Transformation Center. I think these are all valid places to find a spiritual director online. And there could be people that you meet with digitally, virtually, or people that you meet with in person. Just like you might struggle to find a counselor that is right for you, you might also wrestle with finding the right spiritual director. So it might be that this person is good for you and this person is not, and that's okay. I would also encourage you to check out these books if you want to be more exposed to maybe the ideology behind spiritual direction. You can read Holy Listening by Margaret Gunther. This is a book that was required for me as I received spiritual direction training, which was a 2-year program, by the way. During that, I received spiritual direction and also gave spiritual direction and received instruction as well as I did that. And I'm still seeing a spiritual director. Here's a book that I read recently by Henry Nouwen called Spiritual Direction. He does a great job at defining it. This is a really accessible book, so I would recommend this book to be read first if you're really wanting to be introduced to spiritual direction. And then my last recommendation is Sacred Companions by David G. Benner. Now, I haven't read this book, but I've read a lot of books by David G. Benner, and I really believe in his posture and his work. So I have a feeling that this would be a good book for you if you want to be exposed to spiritual direction as well. So thank you for watching this video. My objective was to try to introduce you to spiritual direction if you're not familiar with it. Also, lastly, offer my services as well. Like I said, I'm a trained spiritual director. So if you're interested in receiving spiritual direction from me, I would encourage you to go to my website, withwes.co, and we can try to have a conversation to see if this is something that might benefit you in your journey.